Hi there, this is Elite Pro Jeremy Mulfay with Fundamental Tennis. In this video, I'm going to show you why you're struggling so much with using the Continental Grip on your volleys, especially the forehand volley, because in my experience, the Continental Grip for the backhand volley, whether you have a two-hander or a one-hander, is quite natural. However, on the forehand volley side, people tend to get into some trouble, which causes them to change grips, which is definitely not ideal when volleying at the net, because there's just not much time for it. It creates just another variable that just simply makes the volley a little bit more complicated than it should be. Now, even if you do not struggle with using the Continental Grip on your volley, this video can certainly be very helpful, as the fix that's going to help you make this a Continental Grip very easy and natural for you is also massive fundamental to having a good forehand volley. Now, the correct grip, of course, is again the Continental Grip. I'm not going to get into details about how to find that grip, although I will say that it is not a true Continental Grip. It should be, at least for the forehand volley, a weak Continental Grip, as I call it. Now, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below this video, so you can click that link, and I'm going to go into great detail as to what is the exact grip you want for your volley, especially the forehand volley, because if you're using Continental, then that is not quite the best grip. You actually want to use a variation of Continental, yes, however, it's not a true Continental Grip. Now, here is why players often struggle with using the Continental Grip. In fact, so many players give it a try and they immediately hate it, and they just go back to having their forehand grip, in which they're going to be greatly limited. Now, first let me tell you why the Continental Grip is so important to use on the volley. Simply put, it will allow you to receive any ball and be able to handle that ball and hit a quality volley. So whether the ball's high, slow, fast, whatever the case is, you can adapt to that volley. Now, whether you want to hit a drop volley or a power volley, or maybe you want to hit an angle volley, maybe you want to change direction of the ball, the Continental Grip will allow you to send any kind of ball that you'd like. So once again, it'll allow you to receive any ball and send any ball. It's the most versatile grip in comparison to any other grip that you can use for a volley, and it's not even close. Now, here is why many of you are probably trying out that Continental Grip. Maybe you get a lesson and the coach is showing you the grip. You give it a try and you're like, gosh, this feels terrible. And the reason the Continental Grip feels terrible is because you're not doing it right. I'm not talking about the grip, I'm talking about the technique of that forehand volley. Specifically, if you do not turn on your forehand volley, so it'll be approximately a 30 to 45 degree shoulder turn. However, it can be a bit less than 30 degrees, and it can be slightly more than 45 degree shoulder turn. It depends on the ball you're receiving, but about 30 degree shoulder turn is often going to be great. And it might seem like it's not a lot, but this compared to not turning at all is a big difference, and here's why. So if you're using the Continental Grip for the first time, or you're trying it again and you're having trouble with it and it's just very awkward, the reason is, it could be partially because you're just not used to using that grip, but the main reason by far is you're more than likely not turning your body, which is the key to aligning the strings to the incoming ball and your intended target. So let me say that again. If you don't turn, so if I use a Continental Grip and I don't turn, look where my strings are facing. They're facing to the left. So you're going to only be able to hit an angle volley, which is going to really limit you on what you can do with the ball. And it's really often going to cause you to hit the frame, the ball in the frame, because you're just not aligning the strings to the target. So again, if you don't turn your body, then you simply will not be able to align your strings to the incoming ball and wherever you're aiming, okay? So essentially, you aim very much with your turn. So if I want to hit the ball to my left, I do just a slight turn. If I want to hit the ball maybe inside out well to my right, I'll do quite a bit more turn, but there's got to be some sort of turn whenever possible, which is most situations. So if you get that Continental Grip, we already talked about how versatile it is in comparison to any other volley. Comparison to any other grip for the volley. We want to get that shoulder turn, 30 to 45 degree shoulder turn, so that you can align the strings to the ball and the target, and all of a sudden this grip does not feel so awkward, because again, if you don't turn, your strings are just going to point to the left. You're not going to be able to hit the ball to most parts of the court because of that, and you're certainly going to be shanking the ball quite a bit. So it is a must that you turn on that forehand volley. Not a huge turn, it's nothing like a ground stroke turn, just a slight turn of the shoulders that will make the Continental Grip feel a lot more natural to you, and you'll have a lot more quick success with it. Now very quickly, I want to talk about why you don't want to use an Eastern or a semi-Western grip for your forehand volley. And there's many reasons, I mean at least a dozen reasons. However, the three main reasons I feel are it's much tougher to successfully hit a quality volley when you're reached out wide, because the strings face down naturally when you have this grip as opposed to a Continental grip. Also, it's much more difficult to handle a low volley for that same reason. The strings will be facing down. It's also harder to change direction of the ball. Again, it's just not near as adaptable as the Continental grip. Now, tennis in many ways is quite an unnatural sport, at least initially, until you learn the right technique, and then it feels amazing. And one example of that is the reason we don't use a Continental grip, the reason it's just natural to gravitate to an Eastern grip or a semi-Western grip, is because when the ball's coming to us, we want to point our strings to our intended target. So in order to do that without turning, you're going to use a forehand grip, because that will align your strings forward. Now, people aren't going to take a Continental grip and then, you know, this doesn't seem to work. Look at the racket face. So obviously the angle of the strings controls the direction of the ball. So people just don't naturally turn in tennis typically at the net. So what do? They use the only grip that will work, which is a forehand grip. See, I don't have to turn if I have this wrong grip. Okay, so, and I may have mentioned it earlier, if you have the Continental grip, I know I said if you don't turn then you're in big trouble, but if you have the Continental grip and you don't turn, then you're definitely going to intuitively change your grip, often without even knowing, because it's the only way you're going to be able to get the ball to go where you want it to go, because you simply can't do it with the Continental grip if you don't turn. So again, that turn is an absolute must with the Continental grip. If you have a different grip, like a semi-Western grip, you often don't have to turn at all, or the turn is quite limited. We already know how limiting that the semi-Western Eastern grip are, so we of course want to avoid that. Even those of you who have been using the wrong grip for the volley for years, I'm telling you, I believe that you can change it, because I've done it with people who have been playing for over a decade and they are very happy with their volley. It takes some work for sure, however it's definitely worth it, because your ceiling is much higher when you have a Continental grip. Now, bonus tip here, when that ball comes, you've got that Continental grip, the ball's coming to you, we want to turn the body without moving your dominant arm, okay? So we don't want to turn and then also bring the arm way back. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with not taking a big backswing. Now, there can be some individual movement of the dominant arm depending on, you know, if you've got a put away volley or not. However, always the turn is going to be with the dominant arm connected to your body. It's got to stay put. The dominant arm does not move throughout the entire turn. And then depending on the situation, you might take the racket back a little bit or a lot more, or not at all. But always the turn must be the backswing. Meaning, again, the dominant arm does not move. I just turn, and that is the preparation for the volley. We don't want to maneuver the hand in a way as opposed to not turning, because again, you of course won't be able to put the ball in different places that way, really be limited. Now, I want to mention it's really important that you monitor your grip, because oftentimes, especially those who are doing the Continental grip on the volley for the first time, they will kind of, not even realizing it, change their grip towards the forehand grip, just because that's what they're used to, that's what it feels right in their hand. It's kind of like wearing a glove that doesn't fit you all of a sudden. You want to put on the other glove, but this glove will fit you in time if you give it a chance. So And also, if you hit the side of the racket, especially if you hit the bottom of the racket head, it's going to move your grip towards a forehand grip. So if you do hit the frame, just make sure you get that grip, fix that grip and get it back to Continental. Just make sure you monitor the grip, because very often, for a lot of shots, so when I'm teaching players the serve, I'm teaching the Continental grip for the first time, or the volley in this case, they will change the grip back to their old one, and oftentimes they do it without even realizing it. So you really want to monitor that grip. Now here is a quick tip to help you create that turn and make it kind of more natural and help you ensure that you are in fact turning as opposed to just facing forward. Your non-dominant hand should stay somewhat with your dominant hand in most volleys. To see, as I'm doing here, so it's kind of like I'm wearing long handcuffs. So in my experience, when I tell players to keep the non-dominant hand with the dominant hand, they just automatically turn. I mean, it would be like if you did a two-handed forehand volley, you would probably naturally turn in order to align the strings of the target. So keep that left hand with the right hand. If the left hand is more over here, then you're much more likely to naturally not turn. So again, keep that left hand with the right hand as a righty, just like if you had long handcuffs. Now, I'm going to show you a drill to help you create this turn as a habit and make it intuitive and make it so that you will soon not have to think about it. It'll just happen, and your volleys will be greatly improved because of that. In this drill, you can use a ball machine, you can hit against the wall, maybe you have a coach, a partner, and you just simply hit volleys while holding your dominant wrist with your non-dominant hand throughout the entirety of every volley. This is going to force you to turn, and you'll soon see a couple slow motion clips of me doing this same thing. Once again, hold the wrist, keep your hand on the wrist, and doing so will force you to do the technique very well. As I said in the beginning of the video, if you have the Continental grip but you don't turn, then you're surely going to go back to your old grip, because that would be the only way that you can hit any kind of decent volley without turning. So make sure you get that turn so that Continental grip doesn't feel awkward anymore, and then you'll quickly be able to hit quality volleys and be able to handle any ball coming your way and be able to hit any kind of volley that you want to. Now, in summary, it's important you have the weak Continental grip as opposed to the Continental grip. Again, I definitely recommend checking out that link in the description below, as I'll tell you how to find this weak Continental grip, as well as why it's better than a Continental grip, especially for the forehand volley. Now, very important that you try out that drill, really holding the wrist with holding your dominant wrist with your non-dominant hand will force you to turn. Just make sure that your grip is that weak Continental, and make sure that you maintain that grip and check the grip between rallies to make sure that you still in fact have that grip. If you're still watching this video, then you probably enjoyed it. If that is the case, then please give me a like. Also subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell if you haven't already. That would help me a lot. I'd greatly appreciate that. And feel free to comment below if you have any questions at all. By the way, I just released a new and free serve training series that will show you one simple tip to fix your toss forever. I'll show you the #1 serve power killer and how to banish it forever, and a great tip to adding massive kick to your serve. All for the incredibly low price of free. Now, if that sounds interesting to you, I'll leave a link down below in the description. Feel free to check that out. All right, I'll see you in the next video.